What if I told you that there's enough wealth on earth right now for every single person to be a millionaire? Not theoretically, not in some distant future, right now, today. But before you quit your job, we need to talk about why that would never actually happen. And the answer might surprise you. Let's start with some math that will make your head spin. The total global wealth, that's all the money, property, investments, and assets on earth, is estimated by Credit Suisse at approximately 463 trillion as of 2023. There are roughly 8 billion people on earth. So if we divided all wealth equally among every person, each person will have about $57,875. Not quite millionaire status, but certainly enough to lift everyone out of poverty. Wait, it gets more interesting. If we only count adults, people who can actually own wealth, there are about 5.2 billion adults globally. Suddenly, our number jumps to about $89,000 per person. Still not rich by Western standard, but here's where it gets fascinating. See, wealth isn't just about absolute numbers, it's about relative position. This creates what economists call a zero-sum problem. If everyone has $89,000, then no one is rich. Because being rich is defined relative to everyone else. It's like asking, what if everyone was above average? It's mathematically impossible. By definition, half of all people must be below average. This was formalized by economist Thorstein Veblen in 1899 in his theory of conspicuous consumption. Veblen observed that people don't just buy things for utility. They buy them to signal their status relative to others. A luxury car isn't just transportation, it's a way of saying, I have more than you do. But see, here's where this gets really weird. Productivity, our ability to create wealth, has increased exponentially throughout history. In 1820, the average human produced about $1,200 worth of goods and services per year, adjusted for inflation. Today, it's over $18,000 globally, and in developed countries, it's often over $60,000 per person per year. We are literally creating wealth faster than ever before in human history. Since 1970, global GDP has grown from 24 trillion to over 100 trillion in real terms. That's a 400% increase in just 50 years. So why isn't everyone getting proportionally richer? The answer lies in something economists call the Pareto distribution, and it explains why equality might be impossible even if you wanted it. In 1896, Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto noticed something strange. 80% of Italy's land was owned by 20% of the population. He thought this might be unique to Italy, but then he started looking at other things. 80% of the peas in his garden came from 20% of his pea pods. 80% of the problems in businesses come from 20% of causes. 80% of happiness comes from 20% of your activities. This pattern, now called the Pareto principle, shows up everywhere, including wealth distribution. In virtually every society that has ever existed, roughly 80% of wealth is controlled by roughly 20% of people. But it gets even more extreme at the top. The richest 1% of people control about 50% of all global wealth. The top 0.1% control about 25%. This isn't because of capitalism or politics or greed. It's because of math. Wealth creation often follows what's called a network effect or preferential attachment. It's the same mathematical principle that explains why some websites get billions of users while others get none. Why some cities becomes massive while others still small. Here's how it works. If you already have money, it's easier to make more money. You can invest, take risk, hire people, buy in bulk, get better interest rates. Each advantage compounds, creating an exponential rather than linear growth pattern. This is why economics Thomas Piketty found out throughout history the rate of return on capital consistently exceeds the rate of economic growth. In simple terms, money makes money faster than work makes money. It's not a conspiracy, it's mathematics. But here's something that might blow your mind. Most of what we consider wealth today did not even exist 100 years ago. Air travel, invented in 1903. Antibiotics, 1928. Television, 1927. The internet, 1969. But not public until the 1990s. Smartphones, 2007. The total wealth of humanity has expanded dramatically, not just by redistributing existing resources, but by creating entirely new forms of value that never existed before. Economist Julian Simon called this the ultimate resource human creativity and problem-solving ability. Each time we invent something new, we expand the total pie rather than fighting over existing slices. Which brings us to a fascinating question. What happens when scarcity itself becomes scarce? Consider information. In 1990, if you wanted to access the Encyclopedia Britannica, you had to spend $1,500 and find space for 32 volumes. Today, Wikipedia contains 100 times more information and is free to anyone with internet access. Digital goods have what economists call zero marginal costs. Once created, they can be copied infinitely for essentially nothing. Software, music, books, movies, education, all can theoretically be distributed to everyone at virtually no cost. Economist Jeffrey Rifkin argues we are approaching a zero marginal cost society, where traditional concept of wealth and scarcity might become obsolete. But there's a deeper problem with universal wealth, and it's hardwired into our brains. Neuroscientist Dr. Michael Gazinga's research shows that humans have what he calls a status-seeking module. We are literally evolved to compete for relative position in social hierarchies. This isn't cultural, it's biological. Studies of lottery winners reveal something fascinating. Within communities where multiple people win large amounts, the happiness boost disappears almost entirely. It's not the absolute amounts that matters, it's being better off than your neighbors. This suggests that even if you could make everyone materially wealthy, we'll simply invent new hierarchies to compete over: social media, followers, gaming achievements, environmental virtue signaling. We always find ways to rank ourselves. Here's a constraint nobody talks about: energy. If everyone on Earth consumed energy at the rate of the average American, we'll need the equivalent of 5 planets Earth to support our lifestyle. The average American uses about 80,000 kilowatt hours per year. The global average is about 23,000. True wealth, as we currently define it, requires energy consumption. Private jets, heated pools, large homes, frequent travel. Those aren't status symbols, they're energy-intensive activities that physically cannot be universalized with the current technology. This creates what economists call a thermodynamic constraint on wealth distribution. But what if we could solve the energy problem? What if automation and AI could produce abundance so efficiently that everyone could live like today's wealthy? Here's the paradox. The more we automate production, the less human labor is needed. If machines can do everything, then human work becomes worthless. But if human work is worthless, how do people earn money to buy what the machine produces? Economist John Maynard Keynes called this technological unemployment. We're already in industries from manufacturing to journalism to transportation. Some propose universal basic income as a solution, but that raises a fundamental question. In a world where machine produces everything, what determines who gets what? So could everyone be rich? Mathematically, we have enough resources today to eliminate poverty globally. The UN estimates it will cost about $125 billion per year to end extreme poverty worldwide. That's less than Americans spend on video games and coffee combined. Practically, the constraints are energy, environment, and mathematics. Through material wealth, for everyone require resources we don't have and create hierarchies we can't avoid. Biologically, our brains are wired to seek relative advantage, not absolute abundance. Even in post-scarcity scenarios, we will likely create new forms of inequality. But here's the twist: maybe you are asking the wrong question. Instead of could everyone be rich, perhaps we should ask, could everyone have enough? And the answer to that question is yes. We just haven't figured out how to want it yet.